This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Simon Marks is LBC's US correspondent and joins us now from Washington. Hello, Simon.
Evening, Nick.
It's been quite a bad week for Donald Trump. He must be feeling grumpy.
Well, you'd think he must be, and I've just noticed that it got worse over the course of the last few hours for him, because I've just discovered that from her social media feed, it appears that Liz Truss today met Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. She's put out a message on X showing the two of them together. He's giving the thumbs up sign as they mug for the cameras, and she describes Donald Trump as right about everything. We will have to contemplate the mind meld that must have been taking place in Mar-a-Lago earlier today as the two of them came together there. But yes, you are absolutely right. Donald Trump had a pretty lousy week last week, and one that I think really raised questions about, at a moment when his approval rating has declined to record lows, he's going to be able to turn things around. He desperately now needs some kind of distraction after a week that saw him forced into a major U-turn in Minneapolis, the decision to withdraw his paramilitaries from the Border Patrol and ICE. His border czar, Tom Homan, was on television today insisting, and there are skeptics wondering if this is really going to happen, insisting that there is a determination to pull everybody out of Minneapolis, that the job essentially has been done. They claim they've secured various compromises by the authorities in Minnesota, although Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota denies it. So let's see if the streets of that city become safer by the end of this particular week. I mean, the president was also deeply damaged by the performance of his Attorney General, and it was a performance Pam Bondi put up in her appearance before the House Judiciary Committee. She might have got away with it if she had simply been berating her political opponents in a general fashion, but the fact that she exhibited such disdain to the survivors and victims of Jeffrey Epstein's abuses, who were invited to stand by a Democrat on the committee, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal of Washington, and asked to raise their hands if they had failed to secure any kind of meeting with either the Attorney General or anyone else from the Department of Justice. And to a woman, every single one of them raised their hands, and Pam Bondi then refused to turn around and look at them, much less to express apologies and tell them that she would arrange meetings with them. So that really damaged her, and it damaged her in MAGA world. There were several prominent influencers within Donald Trump's political movement calling for her to be fired by the time that testimony ended. I mean, other things in the last few days, Donald Trump's pet U.S. attorney here in Washington, D.C., Jeanine Pirro, couldn't get a grand jury to indict 6 Democratic Party lawmakers that President Trump accuses of sedition and treason because they put a video out, perfectly sensibly telling members of the armed forces not to obey unlawful orders that might be meted out to them by the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. And then the week ended with that extraordinary and sort of devastating announcement about climate change, with the Trump administration no longer willing to accept the science behind the endangerment finding, which has said for the last 16, 17 years that as US government policy, successive governments believe that climate change is endangering human health. The Trump administration not recognizing that fact, and as a result rolling back regulation. As we know, he's derailed the electric car mandate here, absolutely determined to deliver a massive payday to the big car companies by rolling back emission standards, to big oil by doubling down on vehicles that only use fossil fuels to power them, and an absolutely devastating decision for the environmentalist community here. I saw the Environmental Defence Fund was saying on Friday at least 58,000 additional premature deaths are going to occur because of this decision. And and millions of additional cases of asthma over the next 30 years. Again, because of this failure now to recognise the endangerment finding. So he's got difficulties, you know, reverses, defeats, own goals, left, right and centre. And he needs something to turn that around, or he's going to find himself in a pretty grim place, given that possibly as early as this Friday, the Supreme Court is possibly going to rule on his Liberation Day tariffs, and they may overturn them. We never know when that ruling's coming, but the next day, rulings tumble from the steps of the Supreme Court will be this Friday.
And there's also many lawsuits from states who are upset by his not recognising the science on climate change and its associated pollution. Aren't car companies going to find it difficult selling their cars in states that will still insist on these regulations?
Yeah, very much so. And Governor Gavin Newsom of California was making that exact point to European leaders when he addressed the Munich Security Conference over the weekend. And car standards in California have always been much tighter than in other parts of the country, and there's no sign that they're going to be alleviated. I mean, California has always posed a problem for car manufacturers. I mean, in some cases, there are electric vehicles. I think I'm right in saying the Fiat 500 or whatever that car's called, that little Fiat, the 500 or the 550, yeah. There's an electric version of it that for a while was only available in the United States in California, and they were marketing it there simply because they wanted to be seen to be meeting California's specific requirements for manufacturers to be developing and marketing EVs that were not being mirrored at the time in other parts of the country. And they've always had, you know, unleaded fuel requirements in California going back years that were early adopters compared with the rest of the country. So it's going to pose a challenge for car manufacturers and also a challenge for dealerships, because the president this week, in announcing that he was walking away from the endangerment finding, promised us all that car prices are going to tumble dramatically as a result. So, I mean, I can't wait, you know. I mean, hold me back. Let's go to the forecourt and see how quickly or not those car prices tumble dramatically, because most people in the auto industry don't buy that for a second.
It also seems to be going against what I thought republicanism was about, states' rights. He seems to be wanting to concentrate power in the hands of himself, to centralise power. But America is all about states' rights. It's also all about the Second Amendment, the ability to carry a gun wherever you want. And, of course, we talked about this last time. And he and his, I think the director of the FBI, or one of his quislings, said in response to the second person that got killed in Minneapolis, the teacher, that the teacher shouldn't have taken the gun to a protest. It's not appropriate to take a gun to a protest, which is completely against anything that a real Republican, and particularly a MAGA supporter, would insist upon.
Yeah, and completely diametrically opposed to the position that most Republicans took a few years ago when a young man by the name of Kyle Rittenhouse, from a right-wing perspective, took a gun to a protest and actually shot and killed at least one person participating in a Black Lives Matter protest at the time. Yeah. This states' rights issue, though, is fascinating because in a whole variety of different areas, Donald Trump is suggesting that states should not have rights that Republicans jealously guard. And we see that particularly when it comes to the right to administer elections. The president over the weekend put a message out on social media saying that whatever Congress does or does not decide, because they're currently looking at legislation in this regard. He is going to sign an executive order requiring voter ID in time for the midterm elections, requiring everybody that shows up all over the country, because he's talked about federalising elections, to carry identification, to which, of course, Republicans in key states have hit back and said, well, but you don't have the right to administer our elections. The Constitution says states administer their own elections. So whether it's on gun rights or running elections or setting your own environmental standards, he's closing the Ministry of Education here, the Department of Education, specifically because he says the federal government should have nothing to do with education. It should all be decided in the states. But when it comes to elections, then the federal government needs to have everything to do with. I mean, it's completely contradictory.
Yep. Always good to talk to you, Simon. Thanks so much for that. That's Simon Marks, LBC's Washington correspondent.